Yeah, I never remember your prayer.
Say it nice and loud.
That doesn't flow, you know, it's kind of choppy, so I can't remember it.
Just say amen.
All set? All right. Call to meeting, the joint meeting, Smithfield Town Council Municipal Building Review Task Force and the Town Council, July 25th, 2025. Do you need to open before we go into pledge?
No, we can do that now. I'll open my meeting.
Okay. Madam Clerk, can you prayer and pledge, please?
Thank you for bringing us together today in a spirit of generosity. May we honor one another by keeping an open mind. May we voice our truth and listen with an open heart. May we discern your will to unite in fruitful outcome. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You gonna do your roll call?
Roll call, please.
Mr. Beauregard?
Here.
Ms. Hamilton?
Here.
Mrs. O'Hara?
Here.
Mr. Ogier?
Here.
Ms. Howell?
Here.
North Smithfield Municipal Building Review Task Force is called to order on July 25th, 2023 at 6:47 PM. Roll call, Terry Bottomioli,
Here.
John Perry,
Here.
Paul Nordstrom.
Here.
Paul Vadney is here, David Chamberlain is not present. You want to let us take care of our business before
Sure.
we get to the joint stuff? Okay. Next item on our is approval of minutes, July 13th, 2023. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Nordstrom, is there a second?
Second.
Oh, I wasn't there, it has to be you.
Oh, then I'll second. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Opposed? The ayes have it. We have no invoices to pay, so on new business, discussion vote or other action in regards to recommendation to award bid for immediate repairs to the existing police station from Tecton Architects. We met on the 13th, task force did, we met on the 13th, and we went over the bid opening with a matrix of what was bid at the bid opening, public bid opening. And it was a recommendation from Tecton that we award the bid to Dubon Masonry Construction as the lowest qualified bidder. We had put one note that we're waiting for a recommendation pending Tecton's approval of Dubon's references. And so I'll turn it over to Jeff now, and he can give you more detail on that.
I'll start off with, if you haven't seen the bid tab, I'll share that with you now. As you can see, we received 4 bids based on the documents for the repairs to the police station. The low bidder, by a fair margin, was Dubon Masonry Construction with a, I'll give you a little bit of a background on the alternates and the base bid here before I go through looking at the numbers here. There was I'm sorry. Out of practice for this one here. There was certain scope that was deemed absolutely necessary. That includes constructing the 2x4 framed wall that will support the floor and the roof construction. Prior to doing any masonry work on the exterior, our structural engineer is concerned about the potential of collapse when we start disturbing that wall. So he definitely wants it braced beforehand, so that's in the base bid. In the base bid is also opening up some test holes basically 2 squares of brick will open up to see what the substrate, the other layers of brick look like, to see if the water and freezing damage has extended beyond the outer width of the brick. It is a multiple width wall, so you probably have 3 layers of brick in there. They're tied together with header courses that turn the other way. We suspect that the water got into that from a leaking roof flashing and then froze over the winter and broke those header bricks, which is what's causing that brick to delaminate and bow, as you see when you look at the station. We're hopeful that that problem doesn't extend back into the further layers of brick. We can't see any evidence from inside the attic, but we do want to do these test holes so that we can see what the back layers of brick look like. And if they're sound, then we're in a position to proceed with installing helical anchors, which are basically long screws that will go into the masonry and tie back that loose veneer to the withes of brick beyond. If that turns out to be the case, great. We keep the brick look, and then we also will go back and do some caulking with some of the open joints that are not of structural concern, and then there's some basic flashing repairs of the roof so that we don't propagate this problem into the future. So that's the base bid. You have 3 alternates on the project. The first alternate is to do repairs to the rear stair. The back stair has got loose metal grating. It has a handrail that is bent and no longer aligns with the railing. These are some of the prime issues that were identified in the report and the feedback from the insurance company. So alternate number 1 is to do those repairs. Alternate number 2 is if we find out that the masonry is more damaged than we anticipate and it extends back into the further withes, then we would remove the outer width of brick, install light gauge framing, metal framing, and then a metal skin over top of that. Not going to be pretty, but it'll stabilize the wall until further funds can be put into the building or until something else happens with the building. And then alternate number 3 is predominantly concrete sidewalk and ramp repairs. There is a replacement of one rotted out entry door that's included in that alternate. I will note that town forces have, since we wrote the documents, replaced a couple panels of sidewalk in front of the building. We could absolutely negotiate that out of the scope of alternate number 3 if we wanted to proceed with that. But what hasn't been done is repairs on the ramp and any sealing that allows the water in that is causing some of that damage. You know, I have to say that the repairs that we're doing in there are a temporary fix. This is not a 30-year fix. It's not a 50-year fix. This is going to stop further damage in the near future until other work can be done. So those are the alternates as well as the base bid. You can see that the bid sum is our base bid number. So for instance, Dubon Masonry down at the bottom of the list came in with a base bid of $265,000. Mill City was next with $338,399 tower, and then ultimately Martone Construction, substantially higher. And you can see a pretty good spread in the alternates as well. Dubon starts off with $35,000 for alternate number 1, $95,000 for alternate number 2, and $45,000 for alternate number 3. You can see that on Mill City, their alternate number 1 was actually lower. Alternate number 1 and number 2 were lower. Alternate number 3 was very comparable, but their higher base bid puts their total bid higher. It's going to be one of the things that has to be decided how we're going to structure the contract moving forward, whether we're going to include alternates number 1 and 2. 1 and 3. I don't see a way not to at least keep alternate number 2 open until such time as the investigation is done. And, then we could, if we don't have to do that additional work, $95,000 to the good. If we do have to do it, then at least we have the funds to proceed with that. So at this point, Dubon Masonry is the lowest bidder. I've had several conversations with a Mr. Chris Reynolds from Dubon Masonry. They have submitted their qualifications package, which we have reviewed and contacted references. We've gotten very good references on the feedback. We have some that have not returned calls, but we got some good ones from Cherahoe School District and University of Rhode Island. So we're waiting for a few more to come in, but everything looks good so far. The contractor will have to submit, once upon a notice of intent to award, they will have to submit their insurance certificate and their bonds, their performance and payment bonds, which will protect the community as we move forward through the project. They also have to sign a document that attests to their conformance with prevailing wage documents or requirements in the state of Rhode Island. Should you authorize to proceed, the form of contract was already included in the bid package. I will have to customize it to the low bidder and their bid amounts. And then I believe that the town administrator would probably sign it with authorization. Yes. And then there is one other document that we'll have to deal with, which is the asbestos application for the Rhode Island Department of Health. My consultant has already prepared it. We've actually included the low bidder's information at the moment, but that will have to be signed and notarized and then returned to us, and we will file it with the state of Rhode Island so that will start the 10 to 14-day clock when we get permission from the Department of Health to proceed with the abatement work. That is a summary. Oh, I will say that we had run an estimate. We had used an outside estimator for the cost. We had a number of $767,000 for the project. So we actually have, based on the estimate, coverage for the cost of the low bidder. It is lower than we expected, and I'm happy for that because that puts you in a better position for your funds moving forward. So, with that, are there any questions that I can answer?
So at the meeting that Mr. Nordstrom was at, our last meeting, that we had agreed to have this special meeting, we had mentioned that we wanted to see the packets of the bids and we wanted to read everything. And we said we would have that, and we didn't, and we received this tonight. So we can't even really vote on this tonight because we haven't seen it prior to tonight.
So can you tell us, just for an example, what a base bid consists of? What work will be done on a base bid? Just highlights. Don't go into detail, but highlights, because we don't have that information at all. So
It will be the removal of the sloped ceiling that's on the upper floor near the front elevation facing the road, and then the abatement removal of the plaster ceiling that's above that on the underside of the joist, which is the asbestos-containing material.
Yep.
The ceiling below it will also have to be disposed of as asbestos-containing material because asbestos, the plaster has crumbled and fallen onto that ceiling, so now it's contaminated. So once that's removed, there is the construction of a wood frame wall inside, just inside the exterior wall, which starts in the basement at the lower level, goes up to the floor framing of that upper floor, and then from the floor framing up to the ceiling joists, and then from the ceiling joist up to the roof joist. That will hold the building should anything, any disturbance happen in that exterior front facade, so that you won't have, you won't have a collapse or significant damage as a result of that. That is intended to stay in place unless somewhere at the end of this whole exercise, our structural engineer determines that the wall has been repaired sufficiently to serve as a load-bearing wall. It will include repairs to all of the flashings on the roof. It is not a total roof replacement, but the perimeter flashings along the edge of the roof, which we suspect are what has been leaking and causing the damage to the masonry wall, as well as flashings around rooftop units and the access hatch. The access hatch itself is getting replaced because the wood is completely rotted on that. It will include opening up 2 test holes. And again, that's an opening about this big, so basically they'll cut out a square of the existing brick so we can see what's happening behind. And then depending on the results, if the results are that the further back wides are sound, then it would involve installing helical anchors along the whole front elevation through the joints to tie the wall back together. And then there's some cracking that are not of a structural concern. It'll involve caulking of all of those cracks on the front elevation around the back side of the building as well. So that's the base bid.
So have you looked at the roof itself to this point to see if there's any obvious signs of wear that need to be done other than flashing? I mean, could we be putting a Band-Aid on, in other words, and has the
I was
roof been
instructed to do
inspected?
the immediate repairs necessary to stabilize the building. Would I,
Yeah.
if I were going to continue using that building, would I re-roof it? Yes, I would.
Okay. So we could be putting some flashing or, you know, securing the flashing, and there could still be another area that's leaking, which could cause further damage. Is that something that we have
It is possible that
investigated?
some of the field of the roof could develop leaks over time, yes.
Can you either go up or have that close to you, please?
Hello? I've been up on the roof, I do have photographs. What they mean by flashing is anywhere there's something that penetrates through the
Yep.
roof, like the hatch of the access to get from the inside of the building out, there's blistering and gaps and holes. So the main roof where it's level, where nothing protrudes through the roof, is basically, I don't think it's leaking there, but around the drains, around that hatch, and like in back of that bushy sign, there's flashing there, there's some cracks and holes there.
Okay.
So I think that's what they mean by flashing. I know, I believe the contractors went up on the roof, but it's not a whole roof job. I think they're just going to patch where there's perforation in the flashing and membrane. Because it's a gravel, it's membrane
Yeah.
and then some rocks, which are, most of it's washed away.
I got a question.
Oops, sorry.
Did you read it?
I was just going to ask if the asbestos abatement will require removal of staff from the building at the time, or will you be able to secure it enough to allow them to continue to work?
In the areas where the abatement is occurring are not normally occupied staff areas. It's
Okay.
a lot of that training room. There is some spaces downstairs which are normally occupied or periodically occupied spaces that the police department will have to clear out so that we can construct that wall, but that's not an asbestos abatement area. The big abatement area is upstairs where we remove the plaster ceiling that's above. So they will have to do a containment
Yeah.
so that, you know, any of the fibers that get loose during the work are maintained within the containment. And of course, there's all ventilation requirements to make sure that it doesn't get out into the environment as well.
Thanks.
So what you're talking about is all temporary repairs. That's what we're talking about tonight, right? It's all temporary.
We're talking about basic repairs to stabilize the building. Yes,
Right.
that's correct.
And if the building if in the unlikely event that the bond doesn't pass, we'd have to do permanent fixings, right? So would we basically, if that did happen, would we basically have to then go back and undo a lot of what we did for the temporary repairs in order to make everything more permanent? The reason I'm asking, is we only have 4 months until the election. So could we maybe slow this down a little bit, and then that way there, if the bond doesn't pass, then we're not wasting all this money and then gonna do it again. You know what I mean? So if we can slow it down a little bit for 4 months, and then that way there, like I said, if it doesn't happen, we're not spending this money because we're gonna spend the money to fix the thing anyway. So it seems like we're gonna spend potentially $440,000 on something that come November is gonna be, we're not gonna have to have done, and it's only 4 months.
So,
No, it's not gonna be 4 months, John. You're not gonna see a new building for 2 years after November.
I agree, Paul, but if
So
it
you're gonna
fails
have-
though,
so
we'll
John,
know.
Let me finish now. We're working at the direction that you guys have given us. And so we were told to do immediate repairs based on letters from the trust. That's what we've been working toward. The reality is, in 2 more years, if you do nothing to this building, you're gonna have significant problems with it. That it may be the point that you're not even be able to use the building if the front facade comes down. So these are repairs that you need to do just to keep the police department in that building. All you're doing is buying some time. You're not, we all agree, we would rather not spend the money there. But you need to do this in order to continue to occupy that building and meet the trust requirements.
Right, and I'm not against doing it, but what I'm saying is, if in November we find out that anything we do over there is gonna have to be a more permanent situation, then why not slow it down a little bit, and then in November we decide, okay, now we gotta we do the temporary stuff for the last 2 more years, or in November we decide, hey, guess what, it's time to make this stuff a little more permanent.
So, you know, from my professional opinion, you're at risk. That is a bearing wall that is delaminating. I don't know when or if it's going to fail, but it could. My structural engineer is concerned about it. So if you don't want to fix sidewalks and ramps, okay, you know.
I'm just asking.
I personally am not comfortable, and I would not recommend not proceeding with the repairs to that front wall. But, you know, that would be my professional recommendation, that you
Okay.
address that wall.
So what would be the estimated time frame of this repair of everything that has been, that you talked about just recently?
By the contract that we bid on, it was 180 days to do the work
I'm
from
sorry,
notice to proceed, 6 months.
6 months? And when would it start?
As soon as we give the contractor notice to proceed and all the paperwork is in place.
And how long does it take to file the paperwork?
Well, I could probably have the contract wrapped up and ready for signature this week. I've already got the asbestos plan for the state is prepared. We just have to get the signatures on it. And then it will be just a matter of the contractor getting his insurance certificates and bonds to us, which usually happens within a couple days. So
And-
arguably, we could have paperwork in place by next week.
And this contractor, this Dubon, they're all ready to go? Should they be confirmed?
They're very anxious to get going, yes, they're ready to go. He was asking me today, what would we do the alternates, because that's, you know, alternates 1 and 3, because that's work that he could begin almost immediately. He also talked about getting the stud wall in at the lower level, since it's not dependent on the abatement work on the upper level. He'd love to get that started, so he's showing to me that he's anxious to get moving.
Does anyone have any more questions or discussion?
Just a quick question. Once the contract has been drawn up, does the solicitor review it?
I submitted all the front-end documents to finance it before we went out to bid.
Okay, perfect. So I need to.
So we can't vote on this then tonight? I think,
We shouldn't, we haven't seen, this is the first time we're seeing anything.
I know, but there's not a lot of detail on here, so holding it another
That's right, because we
Week and a half,
didn't
is
get
it?
the detail. We should have received detail, we didn't.
No, but what I'm saying is another week and a half till the next meeting isn't gonna change anything that you're looking at. There's no,
Well,
Nothing more
another
to
week and a
read.
half, we would get back up, but that's your call, but we haven't received anything, we have nothing to look at other than this paper and we specifically asked that at the last meeting.
Unfortunately,
Can you
With the
speak in the
timeline.
microphone, please, so we have you on record? Thank you.
unfortunately, with the timeline that we're given, I found out about a meeting on Tuesday afternoon, and the clerk needed a deadline of Wednesday at noon time, so I could not get all this documentation to you, figuring that we would meet face-to-face like we've done in the past and move from there, meeting face-to-face. It was at the clerk's request that I have it done by noontime on Wednesday. And so,
Right, but it
and
was
so,
also, it was the task
weeks
force
ago.
request to have a special meeting so we could review this too. So, with your requesting a special meeting and to go over this, I would assume we would have had documentation in our packet to review prior to tonight.
I mean, it is a lot of money. It's almost
Num-
$500,000 with the ad alternates.
it's
And
four-
we
it's
have,
$440,000 with the
Right.
alternates. And this is something that we reviewed. I mean, to kind of be blunt and to be honest with you, you charged us with doing this work, and we're here to make a recommendation.
Yep.
And we've done our work, and we've reviewed the documents, and we're making a recommendation. If you guys know something more than we do about this process, please let us know. And because otherwise, we're wasting our time. If we're gonna do all this work and make a recommendation, and then we're gonna come here to make that recommendation and say, well, wait a minute, we wanna see all this other information, why are we doing it?
it's due diligence.
Right, it's
for-
your due diligence, but it's our due diligence to make sure we review things
Yeah.
before we spend $440,000 of taxpayer money. I mean, we just need to review it.
Doesn't mean
that-
we'll change it, doesn't mean that we have any information other than what you've expertly provided us with, but it is something that we requested.
What questions are there that you're looking for that we can provide answers to?
Well, I think we wanted to review what came back so we could at least see it. I mean, we have nothing. You know, on the council, you would be the first one to say, I can't vote on something because you just handed this to me tonight. And that's what this is. Like, even if we had this in our packet, you know, we just have nothing to look at. And you know that you would do that, right? You're like, I'm not doing this tonight because I just received it.
I'd like to make a comment on this. We have people up there who has you have a great concern for that building. Am I right?
Hmm?
Great concern for that building and its state and the people who are working in that building. They've gone through everything. I'm surprised that trust isn't even putting more pressure. It's in a very dangerous state. You know it. We have people this is their business. And if he felt comfortable in lollygagging over it, he would say so. That's why you're seated there. That's why we have this person who has been on this. The chief works there. He knows the state. And this is why we're in this predicament, because we waited and waited and waited. And it's deteriorated to the point it is a dangerous place to work in as far as I'm concerned. For your officers and for people around that building who maybe just be, one part to another, going up the stairs. It's an accident waiting to happen. I would go with the council, the group that's been working on this. This is their business, and the men up there and the women up there would not say it must be done if it didn't need it. I just believe in the hard work you've done, and it's to the point where, it's being explained visually as far as the brickwork's done, as why it's in that condition because of roofing and leaks between bricks and bricks that old are going to deteriorate. So if I'd like the vote to be taken now and get to it as soon as we can before we are held accountable for putting our people in a dangerous building.
Yeah, I tend to agree with Claire. We put together really the all-star team, and I'm not trying to blow smoke, okay, but we put together the all-star team of committees in this town. And we could all look at those, all the paperwork and stuff, and it's going to be, it might as well be reading Greek compared to what these guys, if there was anything, that there were any issues with it, I'm sure somebody on this board, including the gentleman from Tecton, would have picked up on. I don't see how us, getting the packet is
And
gonna
let's
really make
face
a
it,
difference.
The chief has been very involved. He wasn't always a chief. You did some building, you know a little about everything, and a lot about most things. You became very involved. And I feel, and in your heart, I'd be very concerned for the people working in that building.
Paul, you're comfortable with going with this company?
I am,
All right.
as well as David Chamberlain and the rest of the committee.
Okay.
And I'll be honest with you, John, you can call us the all-star team, whatever you want. I look at this man, he's the professional. We hired a professional to help us out. He's making a recommendation as well. And we're listening to him as well. And that's why we made that recommendation to what to do bond. If you want to wait and see what all the bid documents that were submitted, you want to wait another week and a half for that, then go ahead and wait for another week and a half. It's not going to change our recommendation. It's not going to change the need to do this. It's not going to change the low bidder. He is the lowest qualified bidder. He has met all of the requirements. He has answered the questions that we've had. He comes highly recommended. He is the lowest qualified bidder. That's our recommendation to go forward. So
And once again-
if you want more paperwork, then be specific on exactly what you want, and we'll have it for you for your August 7th meeting, but our recommendation is not changing. It's just gonna delay the process.
And once again, it has nothing to do with qualifications. I mean, we obviously know you have done the work. But John, you just said 5 minutes ago, you wanted this to halt, and now you're like, okay, now let's do a vote.
No, I mean, if we're gonna do it, we're gonna do it, that's all I'm
it's-
saying.
It's our duty to make sure we look at what we're approving. And anyone can sit here and say, we're wasting time, but that's what we're here for, is to look at this and to read it and to make sure that we agree that what is in there is what you're saying, just so we're doing our due diligence, just like you are. And I thought we were pretty adamant about what we needed to see when making this decision on the other night. We said, okay, we're gonna see more than just this piece of paper, right? Yes, we are. And that's, okay, well, let's do a special meeting. That's what we're gonna do at the special meeting. And then we get a packet, and we literally have 2 pieces of paper in the packet. So the council wants to do a vote, go right ahead, do your vote. But all I'm saying is, we're not doing our due diligence, and waiting a couple days until we get paperwork that we can actually say that we agree with and we condone and we bless it, then, but you want to vote, Claire, you want to do a motion and a vote, then go ahead. Did you have anything to say?
Well, I was just gonna say, like, I know normally when we award bids, we usually do have at least some documentation. And I know it was a quick turnaround. I think it was, like a week ago or so, a week and a half ago, it was talked about this joint meeting. But usually, like, there's usually like a memo from the finance director, or, there's some type of documentation, at least from the bid sheet, that at least who it comes from. So I agree that we should have a standard. So what happens if it is delayed another week and a half in terms of the trust? Because, I sit here and I'm thinking, and I've been listening all these months, and this is not a new issue. We've all agreed upon that. This building has been bowing out at the front since at least 2020, and we've sit here now for 3 years later talking about it, and now it seems like it's only a concern or an emergency because the trust handed us a letter and said, hey, we're not insuring you anymore. And it's not necessarily that's the order, it's just how it perceives when I first heard it from the outside looking in. And so I agree we need to do something. I don't think waiting is the answer to see what may or may not happen in an election. But I just wonder what happens if it is delayed another week and a half. Or maybe we come back and we just approve the bid document sooner.
From a contractual standpoint, you have 60 days, I believe it is, from the receipt of bids, which you are still within. We received bids in late June. The bid packages, the hard copies are in my car. I didn't bring them in because of the rain. I also have them electronically on this flash drive in case we wanted to put them on the screen today. I'm happy to give either or both of you those to you tonight. I'm also happy to send the entire bid package, including the specifications and the drawings. That is a very large file. I'll have to do a file transfer. So I would just need to know whose attention I could send it to. They need to be savvy enough to download the file. Otherwise, I would have to, I'd have to make flash drives for everybody. but I'm happy to distribute those as well.
So if I heard correctly, waiting until August 7th, would that put us outside of the bid?
You're
60
still within the
days?
contractual limits to award the contract.
You said we have 60 days from the
I believe it was
opening?
60 days. Sometimes it's 60, sometimes it's 90. My recollection is that I wrote 60 days in this one.
Okay, so
From
it'd be
the
like-
opening or
From the opening, yes,
so
for
like
receipt
end
of bids.
August. So the end is really like end of August is the end of the contractual
Yeah, I
period?
think it was, I forget which date was exactly, but it was the 20-something of June that we opened it. June 25th?
I thought you said July 13th.
No, the end of June.
That's when we met on July 13th.
Yeah.
The bids were due 25th or the 27th of June. And these are all documents that were approved by you and the finance director.
Yeah, the drawings were here at a previous meeting, when Rebecca was here. The specifications were all submitted through finance.
And what about, has the solicitor looked at the contract itself and for form?
I'm not aware of that. I submitted them and
Yeah.
suggested that their town council review. I
Okay.
didn't receive any comments back.
Right, okay, thank you.
Chief, do you have any comment on this?
From attending all the meetings, most of the building committee meetings, they're tasked with going through the meeting with Tecton, and the bids were all submitted based on all the same information. So what you're looking at, if you envision a house, the police department building being a house, so there's some wrecked shingles, there's some leaky windows, there's some siding that needs to be replaced, and some stairs in the front of the house that need to be replaced. The whole house needs to be demoed or totally rehabbed, but there's water infiltrating into the building, there's paint peeling in the building, there's concrete cracking from the building, there's bricks cracking from the building, there's flashing and coping, and this is the minimum bid, don't you? It's the minimum bid,
Right.
so they all bid on the same repair just to stop the bleeding, and they told you that it's the minimal amount of money they want to tell you to spend. So that's, I don't see where it's that, I don't know what document you got, it didn't get, so.
But Chief, I think the question is like, what happens if I said to you, I have 4 police cars that you could potentially buy, and I recommend this one, but I don't give you anything else other than just price? That is kind of the comparison. Would you buy it blindly?
Well, if I had 4 professionals from state police agencies or FBI agencies that looked into these 4 cars and said, you should buy this one, and it's the cheapest one, I think I'd buy that.
I'm not disagreeing
No,
that.
I'm just
Yeah,
saying
I'm just saying it's kind of like, I'm just trying to translate it, right? I mean, I don't have a problem voting on it
Hey,
tonight per se,
I
but.
was at the meetings, you weren't at the meetings, and I don't know what, if you want to cull through it, like they said, it's a lot of architectural elevations and this type of anchor or that type of mortar and whatnot, but at the end of the day, it's minimal work that needs to be done to the building based upon what the insurance company said, and it's the minimal amount of money you're gonna spend for a contractor to do the minimal amount of work to suffice the insurance company. I guess that's, I just breaking it down, so that's what we're here to.
Yeah, and I don't think any of us are disputing what's been presented or what work has been done.
Right.
I think what we're looking at is procedurally, under normal circumstances, even if it was a bid for $10,000, we would get something that we would be able to look at in our packet. We could call people if we had questions. We come to the meeting and we're fully vetted on the thing. There's been a lot of information over the last year, even in the time that I've been here since December. It gets confusing, it gets confusing. And we have another document in our packet that is for yet another fee proposal, right? So I think it's important as town councilors that we have an opportunity to look at what came in, just to look it over, and to say we've done our due diligence. If we found something that we were uncomfortable with or had a question about, we'd have time to ask that question and then come to the meeting and be fully prepared to make a decision. I don't think any of us think that none of this is important or that is essential at this point. I agree with Mr. Biragad that I feel badly that we have to expend funds on a building that could potentially, in a very short period of time, be deemed, you know, moot. But we are talking using taxpayer dollars of up to approximately $440,000. And I don't feel comfortable with a one-page suggestion and recommendation based on,
Can I ask a question or suggestion?
Sure.
What do you want to see?
That was
You
gonna,
wanna see
that would, that,
a
I-
memo recommending from the.
no, I think what Jeff just said was the thing I would like to see. I'd like to see the bids. I'd like to see them.
I don't know what that means.
Well, you had four bids come in and you all looked at them. Those bids where you made a decision based on the information that you received, right? You made a decision as to Mr. Dubon masonry, right? Based on the four.
So
We
you-
have never seen the four,
Okay, so you will see a submittal from each of the contractors
right?
that lists their price for each of the options, written, handwritten, and total.
And tells us what they're going to do for 440.
Bid package is going out, so when they submit these bids,
Yeah.
all they are is numbers. There's nothing, no writing saying, I will do this, I will do that. It's all in the bid package that went out that they bid on.
So when I used to teach of course, I used to tell students,
I want these guys to
specifications,
talk up
the
there. So, just give me a minute.
specifications of the recipe, they tell you how you do things, how things have to be done, and the drawings, the other pictures on it, how to do it. That's what they're bidding on, they're bidding on those specifications.
Mhm.
You wanna go through the specifications to see what the work entails? Cause I can guarantee you, you'll get a good night's sleep.
Well, I'm just, I don't know how everybody else wants to vote, but I feel uncomfortable making a decision on $440,000.
I'm asking for August 7th, what you wanna look at.
You know, Madam President, if I may, I'll take responsibility in this. I figured by us meeting jointly, we could discuss this publicly, and you would get the answers that you need. You give us a list of the documentation that you require for the 7th of August, and we will provide it for you. That's it. That's simple. Just tell us exactly what you want, what documents you need from us. We will provide them to you for the 7th, with a letter of recommendation in the front page of it. Just tell us exactly what you want. You need to tell us, so we can,
Yeah.
The problem is, what he's saying is, the bid package, that's what you're asking for. This is what it is, it's just numbers. It's, they have a package that went out, this is what they bid on, so everyone is reading the same thing. So
But-
now they just put their numbers to it, fill it in, it's a pre-form, they put this number for this bid, that's all you have, is just numbers.
But what I don't have here is when you say the bid package, I have a $265,000 base bid, right? Right? Okay, we both agree on that? I don't know what the base bid means, right?
I
Wait a minute.
understand that.
Excuse
So,
me,
There's a lot of
excuse me.
conversation
Wait a
going
minute.
on right now.
There's too many conversations. We have
Correct.
conversation back here, we have conversation
Right.
here. Can we have one conversation so we can answer the question?
just let us know what documentation you require on August 7th. That's it. That's our request now. Give us a list of exactly what documentation you require on the 7th. We will provide it with a cover letter.
I mean, I think we should have basically a summary or some sort of what the base bid is. Give us some explanation what that base bid is. Give us, like, the 1, 2, and 3 alternates. Basically, explain out what it is, and then have copies of maybe their bids, so we can at least see them in writing.
So you want the bid specs.
The bid package.
You want the bid specs. You want the bid responses, correct?
Mhm.
You want a cover letter from this board with a recommendation.
Correct. Just like we would with any other project.
I would disagree, I've never seen people ask contract specifications.
May I?
And I saw
We
it.
always.
I mean,
we
we
always
do
have-
get 'em.
We always have the bid
We do get them.
attached
Terry, you
to
sat on
a
the council. Paul, you sat on the
recommendation.
council. We get
No, I've been
memos.
on, if you're gonna point the finger at me, I've been on the council and I've ordered a lot of bids, and I'll just use the police
Yeah,
police
that's
car
fine.
as an example. The chief puts out a bid spec for a police cruiser. He's looking for a 2023 police enforcer engine, and everything. That's all you see, and you see that the three guys put in a number, and we pick from those numbers. That's the extent of what I've ever seen.
The bids are
awarding
usually
a bid.
attached, though.
At least you know the car you're buying, though. It's not like it's
It
not,
doesn't
you
matter
don't
what
know
car
what
you're
it is.
buying. When he
I'm not
puts
gonna
out-
get
when-
into the
when
back
you-
and forth with you, Paul. All I'm saying is there is some level of detail. I personally don't have a problem voting on this tonight because this is pre-approved taxpayer dollars from the 2013 bond. So we've been sitting on this money doing nothing for it. However, I do think going forward that we procedurally should at least follow a process. You know, it should be consistent. I'm not really gonna know what goes into the bid details because I'm not an architect. I would reach out to Jeff if I had a question. I think if we were to get them and to not reach out to Tecton would not be proper as well, since they are the ones working on the project. So, I mean, it's up to us to decide. I'm just saying a little more detail would have been a little nice. Just at least the bid spec. I mean, I know it's a long document, but.
So
Jeff, did you have something to say?
so you need those three things.
Excuse me. I'm completely prepared to provide you with all of those documents. As I said, I do have electronically the bids here. I toyed with putting them up on the screen, but that doesn't give you the time to review them. Plus, I do need to make sure that there's no confidential information in those bid files. So I'm a little hesitant to throw up there. I know that the low bidder does not have any confidential information, but some of the others may have included that.
Okay. Is that something that we could get, so that maybe we could move this to Monday, was it the 7th?
Yeah, I literally, I mean, the hard copies of the bid are in my car. I'm happy to leave them with the town, or I can get you the electronic version. You know, we do have to respect any confidential documents within this, so I could scrub that for you first. And then again, I'm very happy to provide PDFs of the plans and specifications as well. And I can do that this week, so you have plenty of time to look at them prior to the meeting.
Perfect.
I'm sorry, I'm curious, Terry, you started to say something?
What I wanted to say, I sat there for 3 years at the town council, and when we go out to bid for specific things, when Ray would go out for the trash removal, he usually came back with his recommendation. We didn't see all the bid packets. When we go out for vehicles, the police handle it, and then we would get the recommendation of which vehicles to purchase. We never got a complete bid package. I bid on jobs. They are pages and pages. So I know we never got that to read an entire bid. What we got was the finance director's recommendation or the department head's recommendation. That's what we got.
But
We
you also-
did not get bid packets.
You also had the backup from the vendors too, with their pricing, and you had that backup, like what we have tonight.
It was a
is
sheet of
nothing.
paper, so instead of us getting that, they typed it up in this format. And if you look at this top corner, it tells you what alternate 1 is, alternate 2, and alternate 3. It's in the corner of the alternates.
We will provide you with the bid specs, the bid responses, and a cover letter from us with a recommendation for the 7th. That will meet your requirements,
Okay.
correct?
Yeah, just so we have something and we can actually say we
You will-
reviewed it and we looked at it.
You will have that for the 7th.
And I'll also add, if you want to visit the station and see specific areas where this work's being done, feel free to come by, call me, and I can show you.
Okay.
So, Chief, you mentioned something, and I don't know if you were using the example of the house needed to be repaired. You said painting and stuff,
Yes.
painting
Yeah.
being chipped painting, falling. Are we going to be doing anything like that with this
That can
bid?
be done with capital funds or funds for
But not
improvements.
with this bid at all?
No, this is
Okay.
basically driven by the trust, and I recommend, who doesn't, the trust should be here at these meetings.
I know,
I
they
agree.
really should. That's
I
a
don't know why there's
great
No
idea.
one asked for a representative to be here to answer whatever questions you have. But I just want to make it clear for the public and for everyone in this room, it's not extraordinary to own a home and have a rip in your liner or your pool and spend money to patch it because you don't have money to put the whole liner in for a year or two. It's not extravagant to fix shingles in your roof because it's leaking in your bedroom and you don't have the money to re-roof your whole house. This is the concept we're looking at with this building, is to patch the holes.
Yep.
So whatever bid specs that you want to look at, and if you want to put that to the physical actual, what the trust had pointed out, I can easily point out, which needs to be repaired. That's what you're being shown today. I guess these meetings should all be council and building committee meetings together. If you want the information that comes in, you have a professional that drew everything up to fix these things. So, yeah, whatever, that's what I'm trying to get, is that it's not extravagant to fix things in a building to stop the bleeding, to get something out of it. And I guess that's what's driving all this work tonight is the trust insurance company seeing those failures and weaknesses to fix it now so it doesn't leak inside the building, so it doesn't peel, so bricks don't fall. That's all.
They don't have a pool at the police station, so we're not fixing the
We're
line.
not-
They got water coming in, but it's not a pool.
It's an analogy.
He was just using the analogy, Paulette, with the painting of your house and whatnot.
Right, that's
He
what I
was just
wanted to
using-
make sure, because
Yeah.
I know we do have capital expenses that need to be looked at as well, over and above what this is going to be.
Right, and those are small things, cosmetic things that
Yeah.
I can work with Ray with, if he gets some help, the sandblasted, the rails being, this is stuff that's falling apart, that
Yeah.
just needs to be
Stabilized,
stopped.
yeah,
for
stabilized.
things to
But
better
it is a
from
good
now on.
idea to have the
That's all.
trust, whoever said
Yeah.
that. I'd love to have the trust come here.
So
Council President,
can
we'll
I
have
just
that
ask,
information for you for the 7th.
can I just ask one question? So, I don't know if I heard the answer earlier. So if it was approved tonight, when would they start work? Versus if it's approved August 7th?
If you approved it tonight,
Yeah.
within 7 days would be a fair assessment? Dubon would start within 7 days, a fair assessment, potentially?
Well, we would anticipate that all the documents, all the paperwork would be in place sometime next week. We may actually schedule a kickoff meeting next week.
Who's involved in the
My calendar
kickoff?
Before I swear to that.
Is that you guys do the kickoff meeting? We're not involved in that, right?
No, we do the
Okay.
kickoff meeting. It's just an opportunity to, to get all the formalities, make arrangements for clearing out space, for how the paperwork flows, all of that stuff.
Thank you.
Well,
Paul?
would the members of the council be opposed to approving the low bid and then contingent on if you have any questions, if you have any, if it meets if it meets your muster that you're going to read about over the next over the next week and a half, contingent that everything's in order, and that way there we can get the ball rolling.
Paul, do you have anything to say? Mr. Z?
Thank you, Council. Maya, my life. Thank you. I did. The moment has passed. You do have a sheet here, I think a couple of council people as well as members of the building committee, of the alternatives, alternate type stuff. I'm going to use an analogy. Seems like analogies are being used here tonight. The first responders come up on a traffic accident. They try to make sure that the patient or the recipient has what they need, and then they get transported to a hospital for further treatment. I think what's in front of us, if I'm misunderstanding this is a temporary. The gentleman's name at the Interlocal Trust is Brad Weaver. So we are part of a consortium, a part of a group of communities that use the Interlocal Trust. So I must reiterate what I said before in public hearing, was that DPW went out there and they fixed the walkway to the police station. we had the antenna reattached, secured. It didn't have to be reattached, had to be made a little stronger. We've been making inroads there. The Director of Public Works is at our call to utilize and to save money. These are the things that we should be looking at. We have a low bid. Again, I don't mean to be redundant and repeat what council has said, but currently there's a $265,000 bid. When you add up the alternates, it's $440K. The decision lies with town council. What do you want to do? The patient is on the gurney. It's on its way to the hospital. Make a decision. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
I also think the solicitor should be here if there's talk about bid and contracts, et cetera, going forward as well.
Definitely.
Just because it seems to always come up in every one of our meetings. I agree with John. I mean, I'm okay with putting contingencies on the approval process. I would also say that if we were to entertain approving this tonight, that we wouldn't approve anything going forward without documentation. That means if it's a PowerPoint presentation, we want the PowerPoint presentation in our packet in advance, just so that we can adequately review it and ask questions. I don't think that's too hard to provide going forward. It's a tough one for me because this money was already pre-allocated. The voters originally said we wanted to fix that building. This is a rehab, at least it's not ideal, it's temporary. It is $440,000. And if whatever we do to that building, renovate, build new, whatever us as a council decides, we're essentially gonna have to get rid of that money. So I also agree that it's unfortunate we have to start this now, when we know that something may be coming down the line. Is that even something that can even be done? Can we conditionally approve a bid spec upon a final review of the solicitor, of reviewing the contract and signing off on it as well? I know it was part of the bid process,
We
but
will have documentation. You can act on this on the 7th.
I'm fine coming back before the 7th too. I mean,
We'll have
It's
this
not-
documentation.
I'll be back
You can
Friday if
vote
you
on it
want.
on the 7th. Okay, we'll put this to bed and we'll take it up another day. We're dragging it, we're beating this thing to death. We'll get you the documentation. You'll be ready for the 7th. You can vote then.
Will you submit it, or will someone submit it to the solicitor as well? The contract as to the lowest bid and how it's written? You have a contract yet? Or you haven't gotten to that point, Jeff, right?
I think we have to award
There is
it
a
first.
draft of the contract included in the bid specs. We're happy to provide the PDFs to the town.
And that's
If
included?
you want to forward to the
Yeah.
solicitor, that's fine by me.
Okay.
But that was the one you said he already reviewed, right?
No, I did
No,
not say
no,
that.
he didn't
So
say
we
that. He
awarded
doesn't know.
so we submitted a contract that wasn't reviewed by our own solicitor?
No, we submitted bid specs that were reviewed, that were given to the finance director.
I understand.
The finance director did the final preparation of them in the advertising form.
So he
Whether
may have.
He may have talked to
Okay,
David.
that's
I
all,
don't
that's all
know.
I need, I know, that's all I need to know.
It'd be nice to get confirmation now.
Well, thank you.
But you'll have all that information for the 7th.
Thank you.
If you need to have David review it, then have David review it, but it's an AIA document, it's nothing, it's a boilerplate.
Okay.
Are they okay with we receiving it as a PDF?
That's fine, man.
Sure.
That's the only way I think you can send it, it's too big to send it any other way.
Well, even the
Somebody prints it
PDF,
out,
I mean,
probably just,
what I would ask is that the transfer,
kill a lot of paper.
it's a big transfer.
So what exactly is coming our way? Are we getting like one bid spec? I just need to know like,
I don't know, it's,
What I'm getting here.
it's like 7, 8 drawings and 600, 700 pages of spec,
So can't we
plus
get like a
4
summary,
bid packages.
a basic summary of what
You're gonna get this, right?
that is the
That's not-
summary.
Yeah.
no,
you
but
get-
like,
You're gonna get a set
What
of drawings like
everything
this, which you've
entails.
already seen and approved.
Yep.
You're gonna get a bid spec package that is 100 and something
No,
pages
it's
thick.
600 or 700
There's
pages.
a lot of paper.
Well, maybe it's not that many, but it's more than 100.
So
And
PDF.
then you're gonna get all their responses, which could be 8 or 10 pages each of them, because they look at it and put a number on this page, a number on that page, and totals out at the end, you're gonna get a ream of paper, each of you.
Council President, may I? If Jeff has the flash drive, may I suggest that he turn it over to the town clerk? Flash drives can be made for council members, a few for the public if they wish to see it. It probably putting it, and there's confidential information on there, so maybe we don't give it to the public. But to do this with reams and reams of paper.
That's all great and all, but I don't have a computer that has a USB stick, so. I can take a PDF. I don't need 700 pages of paper with like printed, thank you.
The town should have copies of the bid specs because they put the bid out, and so it's something that should be in the town's file.
I mean, that's already a public document, right, the bid spec?
All this stuff is
Yeah,
public, all this stuff is public documents. They're all public documents.
With the exception of if any bidder included confidential information within their bid and it's noted as confidential, that can't be public record. It wasn't a requirement, but some people do that.
Okay, good point.
The bid package was on the
So
website.
it's on the town website. You go right there and look at there.
But the responses aren't there, right?
That's correct.
But the responses aren't there.
That's correct.
All right, can we move on?
Yeah.
Are we all set to move on?
Okay, thank you.
Discussion, vote, or other action regarding proposed amendment for updated layout of a one-story building for construction of a new police station from Tecton Architects.
Madam President, at the request of the council, Tecton has submitted an amended proposal to do a one-story, 14,850 square foot new building to replace the police station. We have reviewed it. He has made changes to it that we had some issues with as a task force. He did agree to them. It is a total fee of $29,000 to do the design, not actually design, but conceptual design. And he's gonna show us different renderings, different options, flat roof, pitched roof, things such as that. And it's our, like I said, it's our recommendation that we go forward with this, is at your request. This is something that's gonna be really important to get done. We're already running on a truncated time frame because you're gonna want that answer, so that when we get to the next item about public hearings on this, we'll actually have that number. So this was kind of really more important to have this special meeting, was to get this piece of this done.
Can I ask a question about this? If that's okay, Madam President? I asked this at the last meeting, the last council meeting. The 4 total meetings, the 4 meetings for the public, sorry, I'll speak in more. To me, that doesn't seem like enough. I mean, when we were meeting last meeting, I think one of our meetings, I think you said there would be a few extra meetings left over for education purposes. And maybe I misheard what you'd said, so if I did, I apologize. So, but I look at it, and, the last meeting we heard that there would be like 3. I think it was September 18th, early October, and then October 23rd for some reason was sticking in my head. And, I sit there and I was like, well, that doesn't seem like a lot, especially with early voting, that takes place. And November's fast approaching. And I still don't know how we're reaching out to people with these. And what happens if we have to have another joint meeting? Does that count towards one of the 4? Because the way I read this, it does. So if we're uncoordinated in any way and we need to come back and meet, then, that's a strike on these meetings. And so, I would think it would make sense to carve out joint meetings from education meetings with the public. And then how do you plan to advertise this or promote this within the town? Because I am sure that people have no idea that this is even coming for November 7th. Except for people that read, the paper and stuff like that. But I don't know generally how many people really know what's happening in town next week. So it's no fault to anybody. It's just whose responsibility is it to educate? Because it should be, in my eyes, it should be at least a 50-50, or who's leading this? Because Is it you, Jeff? Are you leading this from Tecton? Is it the MBRTF? Like,
No, sir.
I would like to see like 6, 7 meetings weekly if possible. I mean, I don't know what everybody else thinks, but, you know, is there going to be an online component to it as well? Just curious.
We don't have an online component in our proposal. We're happy to provide material for posting online.
I mean, like a Zoom
we-
meeting or a Teams meeting so that the public can dial in and listen.
Again, I don't have that in my proposal. I'm happy to do one of those meetings or any number of meetings of that variety if you want to do it here and use your online capabilities. And tell me how many meetings you want, and we'll adjust appropriately.
Well, I'm just curious. I mean, I'm not.
I mean, my gut is that, you know, you've only got so much time, and when we do this in the past, attendance isn't always significant. And if you do a lot of them, what you find is you do a lot of meetings to a few people. So I'm happy to be here and do the presentation. I just did this for another community recently. I drove out on a Saturday to the fire station that we were promoting a project for, and I spoke to one person, and then I went home. So, you know, it's got to be this balance. You really want to get some meaningful input on that. So, yeah, I mean, I'm happy to do more. I put 4 in there because we do have a couple public presentations left over from before.
I was gonna say, we still have some in a previous contract, public
Okay.
hearings, I believe, 2, maybe 3. There's a dollar amount, actually, it's not a set number of meetings, but there are funds left still for public presentations or public hearings in the first proposal that we had. And then we had the second proposal, which is immediate repairs, and now we have the third proposal, which is the 1-story, 14,850.
I think there was one more in there.
Uh,
I think there was one more for a second design option.
You know what, going along with what Doug was just saying, what we need to do, and I know the town doesn't have a Facebook page, but we have to go on social media. We gotta go on Facebook, we gotta go on Twitter, and whatever other social media there is, and we have to not only alert the people as to when there will be meetings, but also as to the importance of this, of a new police station. That has to be, we have to hit them, we have to boost those posts, because I promise you one thing, and it's already happening, posts in the negative are already being boosted around town by one specific page, all right? So that's already happening, that it's going out in the negative against the police station, and it's being boosted. So everybody that's on Facebook that has a North Smithfield address is getting this across their page. We have to figure out a way, we have to create, I know the police department has a Facebook page, so we piggyback off that, and the Facebook page on the police department, we educate the people as to why we need a new police station, when the meetings will be. If you have anything pro or con to say, come to the meetings. But we just can't allow one side to get all the, dominate the social media. We have to be on social media, and we have to hit it hard. And even if it costs a little bit of money from the town, it would be a shame to let an opportunity like that go to waste. Because I'm telling you, it's happening against, so we should be proactive, and we should be basically all over social media with this.
I agree with social media. I mean, I brought it up the last time I was on the council. I think the town should have had a social media page, and I lost that debate, unfortunately. But I do agree. I think a lot of people are on social media, for good and for bad. It doesn't matter. But, you know, whether it's Facebook Live or it's Instagram or it's something like that, I think it's, you know, there's younger people moving in town, a lot of them. And, you know, too, that we need to reach people that don't want to come and sit at a meeting at 6:45 at night, you know? It's a reality. I mean, so I think ways that we can at least put information out there, and we can exhaust every option, and then just let people decide. That's all, I think, for or against.
So
But
I
at least
guess-
give them the information.
You can put things out on Facebook.
Can you speak in there, please? Well, I know, I'm sorry. I know, Rose.
Pretty loud, you don't really need the microphone, but. You can put things out on Facebook like, hey, there's a meeting on Tuesday night, October the 4th, or whatever day, to discuss the police station. These are the issues, you wanna do that. But to get into a back and forth on Facebook is going down the wrong rabbit hole. You wanna educate the people. I can tell you right now, the task force is willing to be the front people. Tecton is gonna be standing right with us. we'll have answers to every question.
But are we sending out like mailers like to people? Like I
The
know in
town
other
could- the
communities,
town
they
could
send
very
out
well do
things.
that. The
But
town
who's
could do
preparing that information? That's what I'm trying to get
Huh?
at. Is it the council working with the town? I just don't know who's doing it. And like, it's just, it should be like, nope, we'll do it, or nope, we'll do it,
Well,
or
you d-
it's,
Then develop that and figure out what exactly it is that you want to do.
I
But-
think we
but
need some
using-
input here,
But
Paul.
using social media isn't the answer to this. It's public forums where we're sitting there and we can show people on here. It's not a back and forth thing on social media.
you can
where
shut
get into
comments
where you
off
get
on
into an-
social
where you
media.
get
That's,
into an
yeah,
argument.
you can shut the comments off, depending on the type of page that you're running. All I'm just trying to get at is, what is the information that we're gonna be sharing with people?
Who's doing it?
And
May I?
who's doing it? That's all I wanna know.
If you look on the second page, number 4,
Right,
Did I miss it?
Tecton, preparation of presentation materials.
yeah. Right,
So if we can put it in the town newsletter, if we can get RI News on it, if we can get the Valley Breeze on it.
I would like to see a mailer go out to everybody's physical address in town, like,
But it's here that they will give us the presentation materials that we need, and then we need to get creative to get the message out. That's not their job.
and that's not what I was debating, Terry. I was
Right.
trying to figure out the next piece, once we have the presentation materials.
Who's
Then,
doing
then
what?
what are we doing? We just sitting on it, waiting for people to
No,
come to a
We're
meeting?
gonna have, that's the next item, is we're gonna have public forums.
Like, we
where-
should,
Where we're gonna have, it could be in this room, it could be at the police station.
but Paul, nobody's gonna come to those just because we put in the newsletter that they have. I mean, you've been at all these meetings. Look at all the people that are here right now. I mean, in all honesty, the only time we actually had a large crowd was the second time, the meeting where we were talking about the $18 million bond. That brought in people. But, I mean, we could use the sandwich, we should have like other communities, like sandwich boards that says, hey, this meeting is coming on this date. You know, we could maybe use the, I don't know what they're called, the traffic things that tell you to slow down. Like,
You're not gonna drag people to that.
but you need to inform people that it's happening.
You guys get the facts of what you want, and then you put it out. It's just, this is a public hearing now. People don't come because they watch it on YouTube.
But even if you only get 50 people, there's what, 12,000 people in this town, maybe 10,000 who don't vote? Like, I mean 10,000 that do vote? I mean, like, so, but what, how are they supposed to know when the meetings are happening? Right? I mean,
You put it out in the media.
but there needs to be more.
We're
Like,
gonna set a calendar tonight.
perfect.
We're
What'd you
gonna
say?
set a calendar tonight. We're gonna give you 3 dates, 3 public hearing dates over the course
Yeah, but-
of a month, once we have the final numbers. They could be on different days. We've already discussed this. They're not gonna be all on Monday. One could be on Tuesday, one could be on Wednesday, one could be on Thursday. So if you have conflicts, you get different days to go.
we already,
If you wanna
actually,
do it, can I finish, please?
I'm sorry,
I've been
no, we just
interrupted
got
3
those
times
dates.
tonight already.
I'm sorry, I'll go right
If
ahead.
you wanna do
happens.
a mailer,
I'm sorry.
we'll get you the information, and the town can put out a mailer to everybody. You can put the stuff on the town's website. If you wanna do your own Facebook thing to let people know what's going on, but I don't think that this committee or this information should be out there on Facebook, other than the fact that there is a meeting here. This is not a back and forth rolling thing that's gonna go down into the sewer. That's not where you want it to go.
I agree with you on that.
And so you want to use Facebook and social media to let people know when things are happening and be aware of this. That's fine. I don't have any issue with that. But this is not where we're gonna disseminate information, is out on Facebook. It has to be factual information that people can, and it's not even like, well, I don't think that that's the right thing, or I don't agree with you. You're gonna have people up here that have all the information, that have spent years doing this, and we're gonna give them factual information, not my opinion, it's a factual information that we're gonna be giving them. This is what it is. And we'll meet, and prior to that, we'll meet with FTM, and we'll make sure that we're all on the same page, that our numbers are lining up, so we can tell people what the costs are gonna be for the bond, right?
Well, they're coming to our August 7th meeting, just so you know.
Huh?
They're coming to our August 7th meeting, I believe, the financial advisors, so.
But we could sit down and talk with them, and so we can all get on the same page, and we'll have all that information. This is not a new thing, not for me anyways, it's not new for Paul, it's not new for John, we've done this before.
I understand, and I'm just worried we're not gonna get people, because the point I was trying to make is, we need to over-advertise this, we need to market it. I mean, it's like, you roll out a new product, you just don't launch it and say, okay, you tell a couple people that it's happening and then hope that everyone adopts it. I mean, it sounds like we're relying heavily on word of mouth, and maybe that will work, but if it doesn't, now we're back to the drawing board. So again, it's just, I think as a town, it sounds like we need to have a separate conversation at a meeting about how we're gonna strategize to at least get the information out there. I agree it needs to be factual, and I agree it needs to be structured in a way that it's not toxic and back and forth, and it's up to opinion, and my opinion is right versus everybody else, because we all have opinions. But I just think how we're informing people that meetings are happening, or here's where you can go to find the information, that piece needs to be really structured. And, you know, whether it's, we send out a mailer with a QR code that links back to the website, that links back to a YouTube video, it can be as simple as that. That's just what I'm trying to understand, is how we're gonna market it.
So if I can just add this little bit.
Yeah, that'd be
We're
great.
here to support you with the preparation of the materials for any of these efforts. If you want digital material to post on website, we will provide that.
That'd be awesome.
If you want help putting together a flyer, my marketing department does this for a lot of communities. We'll put the flyer together and have the digital content so you can get it printed and mailed. If you do want to do a YouTube video, we've done that in the past. We've done, you know, the live TV interviews on cable access TV. And of course, we're absolutely here to support you in the meetings. If 4 plus the 2 that are left over are not enough, we can address that as well.
Yeah, that's all I needed to hear, was
And
that
it,
there's
you know,
additional support, not just all
conversely,
of
if we
it,
don't
no.
use them, I don't charge you for meetings I don't go to, you know.
Yeah, no, I know.
So, may I? I was trying to say that last time we met with Mr. Nordstrom, we did agree to 3 dates for public hearings. So you may want to double check on that.
Yep, September 18th, October 2nd, and October 23rd.
Right.
Sorry, what was that?
September 18th, October 2nd, and October 23rd.
I'm gonna ask, is there a council meeting during any of those dates? Because I know originally the 18th was one, but it got moved, so.
I don't believe they're on any Mondays.
You know, while we're looking, I just gotta say, I'm sorry, go ahead, Paul.
Or the week of the 18th, and there's a council meeting on the 19th. And so it could,
So all these dates are
week
week
of the
of?
2nd.
Okay.
Okay, that's a little different. I thought it
Week
was.
of the 23rd. Okay.
And so we thought that, you know, just randomly,
Hmm.
come and meet this, but I think it's usually the first one on a Tuesday.
Oh, yeah, we did say that.
Maybe you do the next one on a Wednesday,
Hmm.
and then the third one on a Thursday. Fridays, I don't think people are interested in going to meetings. Monday, they conflict with
Mhm.
council, can possibly conflict with council meetings.
You know,
But before we get to that point, if I may, can we address this proposal and what we want to do with this proposal? It's our recommendation that you award the proposal to get the conceptual design and estimating done for a 1-story, 14,850 square foot new building to Tecton. And then we can talk about the dates.
So just for clarification, so, under architectural services, number 3 and number 4, are those different? So does 3 come out of the number, like, does that meeting deduct from the meeting, the 4 meetings, 4 public meetings? Yes? That's just- I just wanna
Number
clarify.
3 is the normal meetings that we have during the design process.
Right, so
um,
does that take away from the
no.
4 meetings?
No.
So there's still 4 public meetings, plus the one
Right.
you do with the council?
Right now, the way it is written is the 4 meetings includes the town council and public hearings.
It does.
It does not include, what is not in that number is meetings with the task force that we normally do as we go through the design process, when we show progress. And so those are included in the base, they're included in the
So
design
it's
piece.
total of 4 meetings, 1 being with the council and 3 public meetings,
Yeah,
right? Is that
and
what-
again, if we
okay.
want more, then,
No, I'm just want clarification, thank you. And can I just go back to the public meetings? Like, when we do the public ones with like, not the council, but with the actual public, like, how long and how in-depth do those meetings go? Like, is it like kind of just an overview so that people aren't here for hours, or is it a total in-depth meeting?
We generally try to do about a 30-minute presentation,
Okay.
sometimes 40 minutes. You go too long and.
Right, that's what I'm wondering if. people.
And then
are-
we like to leave, 20 minutes, sometimes it goes an hour for
Okay.
questions and comments, Yeah, I mean, at this point, we'd be presenting a design with a budget. Sometimes we do these earlier in the process to get input during the design process. Unfortunately, we don't really have the time frame for that
Yeah.
in this case.
No, it just might be helpful to get people here if we say it's a 30-minute meeting rather than, oh, come and sit here for 2 hours and watch our demonstration. I just want to, so we can kind of put it out there that it's a quick, brief meeting, just to give everyone a little bit more
Yeah, I
understanding.
mean, we usually figure it's going to be, an hour to an hour and a half, because by the time you do all the questions and all,
Okay, thank
so-
you.
sometimes they go shorter.
One person shows up.
One person shows up, they go short.
So this proposal, Jeff, would be for the 1-story, right? And if you were to have this approved this evening, what timeline are you looking at before you can submit that? Because if we're looking at a 9/18 first meeting, and we don't, now I'm just logistically trying to figure out what we have to do here. So if this is approved, and you provide us with the 4 designs, right, for the 1-story, or 4 modify, whatever you want to
Yes.
call it, right? Then is our next step to determine if we want the 1-story or the 2-story before you have any meetings with the public?
Good
No, she's
question.
right. She's right.
We're going back to that?
What do you mean?
That's the beginning.
Because we have to know what we're asking people to vote on, right?
Yeah, and I thought my direction was to use the reduced program for a 1-story design.
Me too.
So, the fact of the matter is I was asked at the task force meeting on the 13th, about turnaround. And the suggestion was that we meet a early September meeting. And after I got my heart pumping again, I said that I would reach out to my estimator when I have an authorization to try to lock in a shorter time frame and dates to get the estimate turned around. These days, we normally allow 3 weeks for an estimate, and then we take the estimate and add the rest of the project cost line items. So they do the hard construction cost, but then there's other costs that go in that we add. So normally I look at that as a 4-week process, which means if you think about that, that means I have to have designs done by August 7th, which would be one heck of an accomplishment. Then I was told that we don't actually have until September. So I will move as fast as I possibly can, but I cannot promise right here, sitting here today, that I will be done by late August with an estimate in hand. That's very aggressive.
Yeah, it is. It is.
But one thing that you hit on, though, that was pretty much, I thought, that was pretty much what we were doing, because when we talked about the single story, it was kind of advised against it, because you said you're really not going to save a lot of money because it's going to take up more wall space and more roof space, and you probably have better off. But my understanding was, so we would compare the two, but that's not the direction that we went?
My understanding was I was preparing a proposal to do a 1-story design. You obviously have the material from the 2-story
We have the two already. Right.
Right.
Okay.
So, if you want to go back and revisit that's fine. I'm happy to talk about it and answer
Well,
questions.
what I'd like to know is
comparing
when
the
you
two.
do show the 1-story design, is it going to say, like, you might turn around and say, see, this is the 1-story design that you wanted, but you're really not saving any money, or it's taking up too much space, or it's not working, that we could end up in that situation, then we say, okay, I guess it's going to be the 2-story design.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. I did do that initial site test fit. It does suggest that it should fit, with the one caveat that I didn't have room for a drive-through Sallyport. I will continue to try to get that, but the site test fit suggests I'm tilting at windmills.
And would there be a significant savings on a one-story building as opposed to a two-story? That's another thing that I think would.
I will, again, I told you a lot of the conventional wisdom. A two-story building has 2 stairs and an elevator. That's square footage, it's about 200 square feet per floor, per stair. So if I have 2 stairs and 4 floors, that's 800 square feet right there. And then, the elevator runs about 80 square feet plus the machine room. So, you're looking at 160, another 200 square feet. So you get 1,000 square feet that you save by not doing 2-story. The flip side is you're not stacking 2 stories on one foundation, and you're not hiding 2 stories under one roof. So it's a give and take kind of game. Yeah, you may find out on a dollar per square foot basis they land pretty similar. I mean, the big savings that you have is we did do that exercise to reduce the square footage. So it was brought down from the previous 2-story scheme. I forget the exact square footage at that time.
15,
17 to 14?
15 to 13.
14.8.
Okay.
So I guess the question is, to us this evening, do we move forward on this proposal for $29,000 and hope that it provides us with another option that we can then make a decision on before we begin talking to the public about what it is we're proposing to ask them to do? Right? Is that it, basically?
So you're looking for approval of the $29,000, right? Okay. Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the scope of professional services for the one-story building at its cost not to exceed $29,000 to Tecton Architects.
Second the motion.
Discussion.
Go ahead.
Just the only thing I'm going to approve it. The only question I would like to see is when we get into the next steps of, like, I know you said your marketing department can help with stuff, is I'm assuming those aren't free services based on the way this contract's
Well,
written.
yeah, I mean, once we
So
have the
when we get to that point, we can maybe talk price about, what services you guys can help the town with and how to market it for the future and what costs are associated.
Yeah, I mean, we don't do the advertising
No,
for
but if we were gonna
presentations, but we
assist.
will give you the graphic materials and help you with the written materials
Okay, perfect.
that you use to do that.
Is that
And
included in this contract?
Yeah, we'll.
Okay, perfect, that's all.
We do that as a matter of
Just want
course.
to make sure there's no other costs coming. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion or questions?
Yes. Yes.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. What do you say?
So what are you waiting for?
Does this need your signature, Paul?
This is typically a council decision. I'll be happy to sign it, but pass it through the council president.
Authorize the administrator to sign it, just.
Make a motion to
Just in
authorize
case.
the administrator to sign the contract for Tecton for the $29,000.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. And the last one is discussion, vote, or other action in regard to future public hearing dates for November 7th, 2023 ballot question. I think we pretty much already agreed on those, haven't we?
It's the week, right? Did we come up with the dates?
So
I don't think we
said
came up with
week
the
of.
dates,
We just
the
have to
week of.
narrow them down, I guess. Do we want to narrow down those dates to actual confirmed dates, or?
What was the first week of?
9/18.
9/18?
Yeah, if you want to pick the dates, that way there, Jeff can make sure they're on his calendar.
Okay.
Normally, we make ourselves available, but we're not Jeff's only client,
I like what Paul Nordstrom recommended is stagger it, that 1 week Tuesday, 1 week Wednesday, 1 week Thursday.
I can't do the 19th. I have a school committee meeting.
I was going to say the 20th, maybe? that first
And
week?
it doesn't have to be consecutive, it can be Wednesday 1 week and
Right.
Right, yeah, I'm just thinking if, that way it'll allow for a little extra time with everything that we've just talked about. So if we do 9/20, then we can stagger. I like the idea of staggering them, I think it makes sense.
so that's one, September 20th.
September 20th you want for a date?
And what do we feel is a good time for public? Is that 7 o'clock or
Yeah, I would say 7 o'clock.
7
Yeah.
PM? And then the week of 10/2.
Mr. Vadney, there's no signatory page here for me to sign off as the town administrator after being granted by the town council. Do we have a, can you forward it to the town clerk and I'll
We'll
sign
get
it
something to
tomorrow?
you.
Yeah, all right, thank you. Council, okay with that, with me signing it tomorrow?
Just sign it.
Council President?
Yes.
Thank you.
Right, the next
The week
one.
of the week of the 2nd? What day do you want to do?
What time did we say start?
7.
PM.
3 or 5?
First meeting is September 20th at 7 PM. Yep, you're welcome. Anyone have any suggestions for the week of the 2nd? Anyone have any dates are not available?
I would say, I would recommend try to do it on Thursday,
The 5th.
Yeah, 10/5 works.
from the standpoint that'll give us an opportunity to kind of make adjustments.
Okay.
And then do the last one on that Tuesday, because by then I would think we'd have our feet under us. And
Okay.
so October 6th and October, what was the other one?
No, you said
October
October
5th.
5th,
On
right?
Top 5th, yeah.
And then on the week of the 23rd would be, Tuesday would be the 24th.
But see, that's my only concern, is that's the last meeting, and then the election is, I mean, there's another week in there, so
And there's,
if people don't start really
Early
paying
voting.
attention until the week before, you may have missed people. So if we could sneak one in, maybe, it
Can-
might be good to sneak one in the week before the election.
Can something be done at the Pumpkin Festival? Some signage
That'd
and
be a good point.
information?
Probably could be an informational booth or something.
Because that's a big crowd.
Yeah, but we're not gonna have everything ready for them.
When is it?
It's usually like around the 8th,
It's
isn't
the,
it?
it's the Saturday of the, before the 18th.
It's not October?
No,
No,
it's-
it's in September.
Oh,
no, it's always in September.
Pumpkin
okay.
Sounds like it should be in
It's
October.
the Saturday before the 18th.
Yeah, it's a pumpkin festival.
It's
No, it's early.
It's September 16th this year, pretty sure.
Yeah. 9th or 16th.
So
But-
we will have had the first meeting.
Right,
So
that's
we
what,
would have some information that we could do a booth.
that's what I was wondering, like, how are we gonna
Right.
advertise this? And we shouldn't be missing opportunities to promote it as well.
Chief, do you have any keychains from the police department we can hand out or something? Get someone to a booth?
But they were asking about.
All right. So the 24th was the third one?
I don't know if we just, because that runs in, going into,
Too late?
do we want to do like the week of the 16th?
I think we should probably do the 24th that week, but we should probably pick another week if we have extra lying over from the last.
And go back.
Yeah, I think if we have extra, we should use them all. I don't think we should leave them on the table.
So October 24th at 7 PM also?
So you're gonna move this before the October?
Yeah, that's a Tuesday.
And then, as the Councilman Ozier's suggestion, I guess, we feel we need another one.
If we have extra, we can just schedule them either before the week of the 24th or after.
To see how it's going.
Yeah, I don't know how many we have, yeah. And I,
Maybe the week of the 16th?
yeah, the week of the 16th. Yeah, it might be good to do that as well. We can do that, if it's allowed.
Do we want to just put maybe a date of like the October 18th or 19th as an alternate date if we do have extra meetings left, or
Maybe that week.
I'm not available
that week, that whole week?
the 12th through the 21st.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
What about the week of the 30th to the 3rd?
I'm available that week.
So maybe we can pick up a day that week,
Of
right before the
October?
election. No, of October 30th to November 3rd.
You got Halloween and.
Yeah, but the election's the week after.
For Rebecca to participate during that week with the suggestions, but she's not back in the office, so I'm gonna ask.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, we don't need to schedule that one now. But I think to Terry's point, I think if we even have designs that we can show people at Pumpkin Fest, we can at least
Right.
hang them
start
up
thinking about
somewhere,
that,
yeah.
showing
I
people what it
mean,
is.
we put
start the
banners up for
conversation.
clean and green, we have different banners. You don't think so?
What are you saying?
Yeah.
It's not local people is what he said.
He doesn't feel a lot of local people.
Paul, you're forgetting that Paul, you're forgetting that this, and nobody knows better than you how close the vote was for the middle school. You gotta, if you pick up 20 votes here, pick up 200 votes on social media, that's the police station.
You may not have the right information on that early, that's my concern. We need to have the right information, the actual accurate information before we start putting it out there.
So when do we get
So
that
we
information
can't-
though?
We can't jump at something and say, oh, here's where we're going, when we're not really sure that's where we're going. That's why we're really scrunching this thing down, because we're trying to, we've been delaying, that now we're at that point that we're finally gonna get that one-story design done that we've been waiting for. And so, that's why, way back, if you remember, I was telling you, you need to start doing this stuff. Didn't commit us to anything, but we had things in place, and we didn't do them, and now everything is scrunched down, and now we're trying to get it all fit in, and so we need to give them the time to do it right, and to have the right estimate and the right drawings and whatnot, before we even go out there with it. And I think it's just gonna be too early at Pumpkin Fest to have that. You guys aren't gonna be able to see it first and get it right before we do that. October, the beginning of October, we'll have all of our stuff, all of our information, we'll have met with FTM, we'll have our financial stuff in place, we'll have our drawings in place, we'll have everything in place. Jumping too early is worse than going too late.
I think
if-
that's too late though.
If we could put a banner, at least putting the dates of the meetings, the informational meetings, and
Yeah.
have
You
that
wanna do
at
that,
Pumpkin
that's fine,
Fest.
But I'm saying.
And
we're
just
not
give
we're
the
not gonna have-
dates.
we're not- Other than that, we're not gonna have the information. to
So then we
say-
should cancel the September meeting, because it just sounds like we're not gonna have information for September 20th. I mean,
Right.
Paul, you're just saying now that we're not gonna have all our ducks in a row until October.
Right, so
But
should
we just
cancel
scheduled an
the 10th
informational
July?
meeting.
You'll have information at the 20th, but.
But the Pumpkin Fest is the 16th. So do those 2 days, that Monday and that Tuesday, really make a big difference if we're targeting the 20th?
Mhm.
I mean, if we're on the 16th and just saying, listen, there's a meeting on the 20th, then there's another meeting in October.
We can at least
and-
educate people when the
Right,
meetings are
just let them
happening.
know that there is a meeting.
No,
Yeah.
but what he's saying, what Paul is saying is there won't be anything available to present by the 20th.
Can we let Jeff?
Right.
Yeah, let's let Jeff answer. He looks like he wants to say something.
Yeah, I think it would be foolhardy not to put a teaser out there at the very least. I mean,
Thank you.
All it says is, you know,
There's a
It's
meeting.
we're
coming.
looking at a possible police
Stay
station
tuned, it's
project.
coming.
Come to these exciting meetings on,
Come to the meetings,
That's
but
about
other
it.
than-
That's all I'm saying.
I mean, you know, and if we
I'm
have a
not
pretty
against
picture to
I
add to it,
think you're all
great.
very hopeful, but a lot of the older people here, remember the stage, when everybody was up there, people would come in, they'd been kind of a barrier where they were in here, they'd be standing on the stairs if anything was important. They took the time. And now, those who came, their families, maybe are married and moved away, and they're probably in Florida, and there's so many, both parents working, keeping basketball, football everywhere. I do not believe we'll ever see those days again. That they take the time to come, because really, between getting home, doing this, all their activities, it's not a priority, and I'm not saying that negatively. But the days that were standing room only for anything like this, they'd all be here. Ms. Perry, you've seen that in the past. We've seen this. But I just don't think the way, we can't even get up to go and vote, gotta mail it in. You know, God forbid, we have to wait in line and practice use our constitutional right. We mail early, we don't mail at all, we go early, only God knows. It's different.
Sorry.
No, I was just curious of the initial meeting in September, right? I mean, that was what we also, Paul Nordstrom, you had said that we would look to have a meeting with Tecton in early September, right? So that is one of the meetings. So I think to Terry's point, and also too, is we're gonna have some direction, hopefully, at least, unless early September is too soon, then I just feel like, you know, we're rushing it, but, you know, we're waiting until October to really give people the information, but, I mean, people do pay attention. It is a congressional race. I mean, I'm hoping that people are paying attention, but if they don't know, or we miss out on an opportunity to advertise, it may be too late, and people could vote early, and then they're like, hey, I didn't know what this was, so I didn't vote for it.
Well,
Jeff, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, go
Jeff, can I
ahead.
ask you a question? You've done this a lot of times, right?
Yes, sir.
So, aren't there professionals, aren't there agencies out there that you have seen that actually, okay, we're trying to figure out the best way to advertise, the best way to do this, yes, social media, aren't there professional agencies out there that this is what they do?
Oh, I'm sure that there are professional marketing agencies that do this kind of stuff, yes, sir.
Yeah,
I've
I
never
think that's
worked
what
with
we
one.
need. I really think that's what
But-
we should look into how much something like that would cost.
You know, I do see that, you know, typical practices are getting it on the website. I've seen a lot of the, you know, we did a lot of the cable access TV. I like the idea of creating a YouTube video that gives some information and making that link available. Flyers are very, very common.
But who's gonna do all that? I think we should really
Right, that's
look
what I'm
at-
saying. I think we need to talk about the strategies.
Yeah.
We're talking about what plan we're gonna, they're both just as important, and to not focus on one and not
Right.
the other, we could be missing an opportunity.
Well, with the flyers, we can mail, we can also
Yeah.
hand
You
them
don't
to the
need-
schools.
You don't need
and-
to hire a professional person to do what Jeff is saying. You can do your own and do an EDDM.
Well, I mean, if you want to lay out, so Jeff, will your firm be willing to, would Tecton be willing to help put together the mailer, or are you just gonna say, here's all the logos and everything,
No, we
go
will,
space it yourself?
we will put the graphic and written material together. We'll give you the,
The actual
You know,
mailer,
the
if we wanted to
actual-
mail something.
yeah, we're not gonna make
You're not gonna
600 copies or 800 copies.
No,
for
we
you.
would take care of the
We'll
printing,
give
but you would
the,
come up
know,
with the
the
template, right?
electronic file so that you can print, and, you know, the QR code is something we have done a lot, where you can, that takes you to the website or to a YouTube video. I think those are great ideas.
Yeah, so I think if they're willing to help us with at least the layout of the format of everything, and then we can vote on it and feel comfortable with it, then, I mean, we can take care of the mailing, I'm sure.
And the graphic template that you give us, that would be something we could also submit to like one of the newspapers and do like full-page ads.
Absolutely.
Like every week before, just saying this is what we're proposing.
Yeah, I mean, the composition of these graphic pieces, you know, for us, we put it under our marketing. But, you know, the preparation of all the graphic materials is where we spend, you know, that's where our cost is.
Mhm.
So once we've got that graphic material, we can reuse it in ways, you know, to help promote the project and that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's great, thanks.
Okay, can I just ask a quick question, please? So we just approved a $29,000 proposal. And Jeff, just for my edification, you will be providing us with this one-story designation, right, for by when, right? By when, and then, again, I'm gonna ask the question, and I don't know if my teammates here can tell me, do we then vote on which one of those we want to present to the public?
Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think you have.
So there's another meeting in between there, right? And so 9:20 is what we're saying for the first meeting. We don't know when we'll be able to, and you're gonna try to turn it around as quickly as possible, I understand that, right? Then there has to be a vote by the council to determine which of the two, one or two-story buildings we're going to ask people to be voting on, right?
Oh, it's more complicated than that,
More
because you're
complicated.
going to have 4 derivations on the one story. I was asked to provide a pitched roof design, a flat roof design,
Right.
and one design that uses masonry brick, and one that doesn't, that uses maybe cementitious siding, which is a common product that we use for smaller police stations. So, you know, we're going to have the estimator run numbers on all 4 options, so you'll be able to see, all right, here's the design, this is what it looks like with a flat roof, this is what it costs, this is what it looks like with a pitched roof, this is what it costs, you know, right down that line.
So can I ask a question then? So I know costs have been kind of falling, right? At least
No, they have
globally,
not
not
fallen
necessarily
yet. They
in your
have
space, but have they gone down, I was going to ask? They're flat now?
We have, I just got an article, well, actually Dave just sent me an article the other day talking about how we're seeing flattening in the costs.
Because I was going to ask if the prices had come down, would it make sense to get a new estimate? But it sounds like they haven't, so just forget that
Yeah.
idea.
You know, one thing I will say is switchgear is still a major problem. It's something we deal with on every single project now because the supply chain on that is still not corrected.
Okay, so one more time, when can we expect? that
Again,
that will be
what
done?
I suggested is that an early September meeting would be far better
An early
than a
September-
late August meeting. It's just,
Okay.
at this point, you know, a week matters.
Right. So let's say an early September meeting, at which time we will have to make a decision at that meeting and not, as we have a tendency to do, put things, you know, off a little bit. And then quickly turn around so that can be determined as to what would be in your presentation that you're even going to present to anybody. So
That is correct.
putting an ad out saying, and I understand a teaser, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming, you know, get ready, that's okay, but putting dates down, I don't think we should put dates down.
What?
Because if it's not ready, then we have to backtrack.
Well, I think we can determine, you know, I think before we get to the point of a teaser, we should at least
No, I
have
think
some idea of when, like, if, so say like for Pumpkin Fest, we were gonna like say, hey, we're gonna be meeting on the 20th. We should know by then if we're gonna be able to meet on the 20th.
Right.
Otherwise, I agree, we should just push the meeting back into October. But my concern is that we heard from the clerk last week, or last meeting, that there's the primary on September 5th, and this room is gonna be occupied. And there's services the day after that need to happen with the election. So, you know, like realistic, you're looking at probably like a Thursday, Friday meeting, because you have to meet, I think you would have to meet that week. I think 1 week turnaround time for Jeff's team might be a little much if we pushed it off. Unless you guys are comfortable with it, then we could meet early the week after.
1 week
but-
turnaround time for a teaser?
Well,
For a
educational
presentation.
material, say the 20th is a go.
Yeah, no, we can handle that.
Okay.
If I have a decision, because we will have,
You wanna reach everybody? Put a flyer in the tax bill.
Oh. Yeah, but not everyone gets them. Your-
It's a great idea.
That
Not
is a great
everyone gets a
idea.
tax bill?
I like that
Your
idea.
Everybody
property
in town
tax?
gets a tax bill.
Your property tax, I mean, some of them
Yeah.
go to your mortgage company and.
Goes to you.
It goes to you.
Mm,
You get a
Yeah,
copy
it's
to the
true.
mortgage
It goes to
company.
you.
So you're
Yeah.
saying
It goes to
put
you.
Put that as
Put it right
as
in the
the
tax bill.
teaser.
But they
You
already
open
went
it
out.
up, the flyer's there,
Okay,
they're all
But
notified.
they already went out.
but I
a great
think they
idea.
went out, right, or they're.
Did they go out?
Yeah, it was in the,
No, next, the end of the week.
yeah, so we won't have time to.
So that
That's a
would be
good
something I
idea,
have to
very
move on
little
quick.
time.
If we set targets, we'll meet the targets. That's how I look at it. I cannot go down the road by sitting there and saying, well, this might happen. No, I set targets and then we try to hit the targets. We're pushing Tecton, believe me. The task force is pushing Tecton. He'll tell you right now, we're pushing him. And he's aware of that. And we're working with him. We know the time frame and everything, and that's why we're here tonight, to get this thing moving, because if we would've waited to the 7th, that's 2 weeks that we would've lost. 2 weeks is a lot of time in this thing. And so, we're thankful that we met tonight, that you approved it, that we're gonna get going on it. We set those targets. stick to those targets.
So when is our meeting in September? When is that, our first meeting in September, Madam Clerk?
September
The
5th
11th?
originally.
The
Or
11th?
did we move it? We moved it.
Or when is?
It's September 5th, right, the first meeting?
September 5th is
But it
the
has to
primary.
move, it
It's a
has to move.
primary, so you
Primary,
can't,
I understand, Paul. I'm saying it has, at the last meeting, we said it had to move,
Right,
but we didn't pick a date.
So we should pick a date right now.
And we should probably treat it
And we
like the,
should have that on the agenda, absolutely, so that a vote can be taken as to which one, and then you have a week.
we should probably treat it like the budget, in all honesty. We should probably have a back-to-back.
To be fair, I would ask you to wait maybe to the 7th, and then Jeff may have a better idea of when he may be done. We don't have to act right now, but it is contingent that we find out where Tecton sits to have this meeting. So I would say we wait. Even though I just said that, we gotta set targets. We need to have things in place before we set a target too, though. And so we can set target dates for those public hearings and stuff. But in order for that council meeting, if you wanna act on that, we need to make sure that he has what he needs.
But we still need to change our meeting, though. The 5th, we still need to change
We
our
have to
meeting on
have
the
I
5th.
understand that, that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying, so if you give us some time, you don't have to do it right now, we're only in July.
Yeah, that's September 19th right
We're
now.
only in July,
Yeah.
and so give us a couple of weeks, and then we'll get you a date. Because they're gonna start working on things, and we have meetings in the interim with him, with Tecton.
Well, can I ask a
Install.
question?
Huh?
Can I ask a question? Oh, you can go first.
Well, I guess I'm gonna direct this right to Jeff, because I don't feel like he's totally on board with what you're saying. So I wanna know, like, what do you think is a date that you think you can stick to? Can you do like August 31st, or you wanna go into
As I said,
September?
I would prefer to do early September.
Week of
Okay.
September, right.
So what do you think is feasible for you?
So you can't do the 5th. Can you do later that week or first thing the following week?
Thursday,
We can do later that week.
Thursday the 7th?
Thursday, the 7th, or Monday, the 11th.
Either one of those is acceptable to me. All I have to do is I will reach out to my estimator tomorrow and say, look, I've got an estimate coming your way. I need you to do a fast turnaround, and I need it absolutely by X date. And I'll get that commitment lined up.
The week of the 7th is Labor Day week, so it's a short week.
So September 7th is a
So-
Thursday.
So how about the 11th? Is the 11th good, do you think?
That's fine.
Okay, so how about, can we do September 11th for a meeting?
Do you want to do this as a special meeting, just stand alone, one item on the agenda rather than a regular
should be.
council meeting?
Yeah, because then we're gonna have
Yes.
another council meeting the following week.
Because if, we'll have a
Are we
lot
gonna
to
cancel
discuss.
the meeting?
So
And-
Jeff, that gives you
Huh?
Just have
1
to pick
week
that first week.
from, so if you have a meeting with us on the 11th,
Pick the first
Right.
week of September meeting, too, at
And-
some point.
we come to some
Unless we
miraculous
slow.
decision, and we don't postpone anything, you would then, the following week, have your first public hearing.
And the most critical piece of information that I need to achieve that is we will have to figure out what the tax impact is. Because the voters, in most cases, want to know what that is. So we're going to get you a number, and, your finance department is going to have to be able to turn that around. Otherwise, we'll do that first presentation without it, which,
Yeah,
Well,
which
the
is-
The easiest way to do that, though, is assume 18 million. I don't want to spend 18 million, don't. We'll make that assumption, though, they're voting on an $18 million bond. And so we can do that calculation with FTM, where we can look at what's going to be retired. And I'm not even overly worried about the retirement thing. We kind of know what the $18 million tax impact is. We've already been down that road. Unless interest rates have skyrocketed something astronomical since we've gotten the last update from them, and I don't think it has municipal bonds. And so we have some range of what we're looking at, and it's not a matter of, you can't go into this thing and say, oh, we know we're looking for $18 million, and so that's the number that everything is targeted to. That's what the impact is gonna be, and then then the only other part to that is where we can show them within this many years, this much debt is retired, and so some of that is your impact is gonna lessen as you retire more debt. And we know that we're dropping $1 million, over $1 million, almost $2 million on the middle school within 2 years. And we're not even picking up, the payment based on what we were already shown isn't quite that high. I have it here somewhere, I could pull it up if you really wanted to, but, it's there, and we've done some of that work, and so, yeah, now it's fine tuning it with the financial people and the finance director and the assessor. We'll have that number. I mean, we'll
So
get-
the 11th,
Yeah, and I think the financial advisor's already coming to one of our August meetings
right?
to talk, to start that
You'll be
conversation
there
at
on the
least.
7th.
I think so.
So,
Tony
and
set it
and
up.
I'll be here, so
At least to start the
we'll
conversation.
sit down, I don't care, I'll sit down with them, with Mr. St. Ange and the tax assessor and any of you guys, and we can go over it and see what they come up with, give them all the information and have him run his numbers and see what we come out.
Anyone have any more questions?
I have one last question. Is there an advantage, I mean, we're gonna have floor plans and elevations actually prepared sometime in earlier August? Is there a format to share that with the council, just so you can start looking? And I don't wanna come to a meeting, I just wanna know if it's,
I mean,
if it's okay to share
You
information.
get it to me, I'll get it to the clerk. If
Yeah, that'd be
we get
great.
information on this, we'll get
That'd be
it to you.
good.
You know, normally I like to have feedback as we go through the design process. That would give you the opportunity to say, hey, Jeff, we like this, but.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I think that'd be great.
Yeah, that'd be good, then we can at least be ready for the meeting and, yeah, try and turn it around a little bit quicker.
We give them feedback all the time.
Okay. Is that it?
Especially David.
So we don't have to vote on these meetings or anything? All right, any other discussion before we adjourn? Motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye.